I'm here with Shell Zenner, who is a freelance DJ, journalist, festival booker, and more. She's a radio DJ for Amazing Radio in XS Manchester and also curates for BBC Introducing Manchester and West Yorkshire. Shell is an advocate for new music and listens to hundreds of new tracks per week, curating playlists. Shell, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me as well, Eve. It's a real pleasure to chat to you.
How did you sort of get started? I feel like because I attended your seminar, obviously, in the Sound City. Did you have like a background in music, or how did you sort of get going? Because you do so many different things.
No, I was just a massive music fan. I always worked in other industries. I've got a master's in transport engineering and planning and have been a highway engineer for years, but always loved music. And I guess I was pretty obsessed with music since the beginning. When I was growing up, I was taping tapes with mixes of new tunes, like B-sides from Oasis. I put the master plan together before it existed. I went to a lot of gigs from the age of 15, but I grew up in quite a sheltered town, really, where being creative didn't seem to be a very natural thing to do. My dad worked in the manufacturing industries, as did my mum, so it just seemed very natural that you'd go and get a job doing something like engineering or working in a factory or something like that. So I guess I went to university and studied geography, and I ended up down in London. And I just obsessively went to gigs. And I think when I moved to Manchester, and that was for an engineering job, and I got jobs up north, and I was like, do I go to York or do I go to Manchester? And the pull of Manchester's music was what brought me to Manchester. And I guess from then I started just doing some little bits. So I would be reviewing gigs for websites, writing about stuff. I used to do single reviews for a magazine in Manchester called Chimp Magazine, and that then kind of progressed into writing for Fly Magazine and for the 405 and a few other websites like that were more serious kind of music spaces. And then I got into community radio. Somebody had told me like 10 years earlier, oh, you'd be great, you've got such a great voice, you'd be great on radio. And I don't know why I never did it, but then I got into Salford City Radio, were really great. And, I really shout out to community radio stations for all they do in the community. And they just gave me 2 hours a week and let me run with it. So I built up like a platform there for myself, really. More people getting in touch with me, sending me PR because I was playing new artists. Started off by literally legally downloading tracks to play on radio, and then eventually started getting loads of people sending me music, artists sending me music, and then that was it. I progressed from there on to Bolton FM, who were another fantastic local community radio station, and I've just done loads of other things since. I set myself up. Basically, Amazing Radio kept stealing my ideas, and eventually they just gave me a show, and that was over 8 years ago now. And I've been with the BBC for about 4 years, and I've been with XS, who I absolutely adore, for 2 years. Such a great family. So yeah, I do lots of other bits and pieces as well. I do voiceover work, so I've got my own home studio, and I set myself up like in the beginning by buying a dictaphone for 43 quid off eBay, and that was how I learned to interview people by just being really rudimentary equipment that really wasn't good enough for radio airplay, but I still made it work. Learning how to sound edit, and I've really kind of self-taught through everything. I mean, if you're a student, you get brilliant connections through doing like programs like Sound City and Off the Record. They're just so great. But also, if you are studying, and they give you lots of opportunities to learn how to edit in software and good skills for taking interviews. These are all brilliant things to do. I did it I wouldn't say the harder way, but I did it my own way by just learning and teaching myself. And I guess as you evolve through things and you make more contacts, that's where more streams have come in, whereas I've done more artist development, lecturing, masterclasses, assessing funding applications for the likes of PRS and PPL, and help musicians do loads of different bits and pieces like that. And you know what, I love it because it's that connection with the artist that kind of fuels me so much. So I feel very fortunate, but I guess there's not loads and loads of people in the north that are probably quite as relentless as I am about it. So maybe that's why I am very lucky and get a lot of opportunity.
You definitely sound like a yes man, if that makes sense. Like, you know, it's like a big like chain reaction. Every opportunity you get, you're like, yes, I'll learn to do that, or I'll teach myself to do that. I'll give the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's tough, but I guess the more skills you've got, the more you can turn your hand to stuff, the better. And I've certainly seen that in lockdown, that, you know, people have been like, oh my God, I haven't got a radio studio. What am I going to do? I can't broadcast. And I'm like, I've got like a podcast set up. I've got video editing stuff. I've got stuff so I can film myself and edit myself. And not everyone can do those different little things like copywriting and voiceover or scripting stuff, as well as, you know, producing stuff and editing stuff, as well as voicing it. It's all those little skills that go together that make you really super flexible and, you know, attractive to companies who think, yeah, we only need to do this because they can sort all of that out. You know, if you can do more 360, including video and socials these days, it makes a big difference for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's your sort of day-to-day work like then? I suppose it's very like different day to day, but like particularly as like a radio presenter.
Yeah, it really depends on the day. You know, like a natural person has a, say, maybe a normal 9 to 5. Mine is definitely not 9 to 5. And that's the first thing I will say to people, that it's not 9 to 5. I think it's like working out a pattern that works for you, however that is. So say my standard day today is a listening day. I am putting together my amazing radio show for tomorrow, and I'll probably be getting some ideas together around what we're doing on BBC Introducing this weekend. So for instance, I will be doing my listening for BBC, probably BBC Introducing in Manchester. So it's all those little bits and pieces which is like catch up. So a few bit of admin-y bits while I'm doing listening, basically. Some of it is fun and some of it is a bit more admin-y, but I think that comes with every job. And then I'll probably have to do a bit of invoicing as well for some of the work I did yesterday. So it's almost like little bits of it. I mean, a to-do list is definitely the one thing I swear by. Always got a to-do list and always got a paper diary, because digital stuff just disappears very easily in my email abyss, and it's so hard to keep on top of it. I think it's important to have a couple of days in a row where you're taking a bit of time out. It doesn't always work and other things pop up, but I think it is important to try and give yourself a little bit of downtime, especially to protect your mental health.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And especially with such a busy week, it can sort of it might seem hard to like find, you know, the black and white, like not having like a grey area where you're sort of half working, half relaxing. So it sounds.
It's really hard because everyone contacts you on social media. So you go on there to have a look for something, and then you fall down a hole of work and you're like, what was I even looking for? I can't remember. Whatever you do, you've got to be sustainable. And that's the only way you're going to keep yourself positively kind of putting out good content.
So you recently presented a BBC Music Introducing podcast, Just a Girl, investigating the underrepresentation of women in the music industry. So tell us a bit about this. Was this commissioned, or did you sort of see that this was going to be something and you thought, I have to present this, I have to put this together?
It's really funny, actually, because I mean, I used to work for BBC Introducing in Lancashire about 4 years ago. I spent a year working on the show with Sean McGinty. And before I moved on to the Manchester show, which was closer to home for me. I've got family in Blackburn, but I've never really lived in Lancashire. I've always lived in Manchester. So I went to work for Manchester, and then I now work at West Yorkshire as well, because I've got a staff job there producing West Yorkshire. But this is something that obviously BBC Introducing Live can't take place this year because of the pandemic. So they were thinking about ways to bring additional content that would empower people, that would share knowledge and really motivate people and give them a little bit of hope, you know, and ideas and skills and knowledge is so important right now. So they came up with the idea of us each show having a masterclass. And I've been speaking to Sean for a long time at Lancashire about the issues facing women in the music industry. It's not just in the north of England, but there seems to be you know, very low numbers of women. And I do think uploading in Lancashire and across the north, and I do think, you know, Lancashire doesn't help because a lot of its artists kind of gravitate towards Manchester and Liverpool. Eventually they move to the cities because, you know, or the best music cities that they perceive, because of the venues and the opportunities, which almost leaves Lancashire in a worse situation. But we just wanted to do something powerful, and we were planning to do something in the universities in Lancashire over the last year, but for obvious reasons that hasn't happened. So when these masterclasses came up, Sean and Will from BBC Intro Lancashire got in touch with me and said, you know, we want to do this. We're really we want to do something that is empowering women, and we know how great you are at working and supporting women, and we want you to be involved. And I was really honoured to be asked. And, you know, we basically had a few rough ideas of what we were working on, but they really let me run with it, and I was really grateful that they gave me the opportunity. You know, we agreed on the people we were going to talk to. I'd interviewed Dreamwife previously about, you know, their strong ethos to support women in music, and they basically just let me interview the artists really organically and see what they said, and then we pieced the documentary, the masterclass, together around what they said to look for common themes. And I think what came out of it was really true to life, and was very, you know, I think it was just a real life snapshot of what women are experiencing. And I'm not saying that men don't have issues and confidence issues and imposter syndrome and you know, issues around technology, etc. But it almost seems, in my experience, having worked in two careers that are male dominated, both engineering and radio, that, you know, it's really hard as a woman to make yourself heard and get yourself respected. And it almost feels like you have to be relentless and outspoken. And if we are outspoken, you know, how many times do you think I've been told in my life, oh, you can talk behind legs off a donkey? And it's like, yeah, I talk for a living. You wouldn't say that. Would you say that to a man? I don't know whether you would, but I think to pull these common themes out, especially the ones about, you know, Grace Davies talking about, you know, how she was perceived for her figure and her clothing and the pressure she felt to dress a certain way. You know, even Ray Morris, incredible voice, 2 amazing albums, and yet she went to study, you know, music production and basically found she was the only woman in the room. And that is going to make you feel like you can't resonate with people, because there's unconscious bias throughout the world, and people gravitate to people that are like them. And if you're not aware of that, it's harder to break it down. So yeah, I just think it's hopefully a message that can not just be given to women to try and empower women, but hopefully go to listen, to be heard by men, for them to understand how they can be allies and how they can help to support women in the music industry and give them opportunities, and what changes they can make. We were trying to make it positive with some solutions and some answers and some workarounds to see if there was ways that we could kind of influence and help. I think it's better to try and be positive about these things rather than just crowing about the negative. And I certainly think that's what's needed right now.
Absolutely. Like after listening to the podcast, I just felt like it was definitely more about celebration. Like, of course, you have to talk about the issues at hand, but in the end, you do need like a positive spin on it, because that way, I feel like certainly with the Girlbands project, we just wouldn't get any men listening to us because they think, oh, it's just angry feminists complaining about how they're treated. But if you sort of lift each other up and say, well, here are the Girlbands, you know what I mean? Like that is what makes a difference and gets people talking. Having said that, I was looking at some statistics specifically about radio. And there's lots of pledges and lots of initiatives like the Equalising Music Pledge, the 50-50 lineup initiatives. There was the Gender Disparity Radio report that said less than 25% of broadcast content was by female artists. And on BBC Radio 1, it was 15%. Do you find that being a woman has ever made a difference to your radio career, or have you not noticed?
I think for me, it's more like, right, I work for stations where I don't get to choose the playlist. I'm very aware of the fact that the majority of the people that work at the station are guys, and I am a woman. and I can see the playlist and I can look at the playlist and think, I love all these tunes, but there aren't probably as many women as I would want to see in the playlist. And it's not because there aren't many good enough. Maybe they're just not the genre that is the station's demographic. And there are changes that need to be made across the industry, definitely. But I think that will only come when there is more women in management and more women in those positions making a difference, doing the scheduling. I think it's more about education and positively reinforcing, confidence in women and support with women in the music industry. But I definitely think training in unconscious bias makes a massive difference. But saying that, I've worked in an engineering organization where we were trained in unconscious bias and the guys still got treated differently to me. So, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I don't necessarily think that I have all the answers, but I do think those kind of things being flagged up to people is really important because, yeah, we want to see a change. We want to see equality. I think there are some massive strides of positivity being made. And I think Dreamwife talked about that really well in that BBC Introducing Masterclass, Just a Girl. But I think, we're not there yet. We've got some brilliant things like key change, pledging to try and get organisations to look at 50-50 splits on festival lineups. But it doesn't, for me, feel like there's any cohesive body kind of pulling all these streams together at the moment. And I think maybe that is something that can be worked upon. Nadia Control is working on something at the moment as well. There's little things popping up everywhere, which is really great. Like what you're doing is really great because we need all these little steps to make a change, to make a difference. But I think it's clear there's still quite a lot of work to be done.
Absolutely. And as well, I feel like it's because it is mainly because women are suffering from the problem. They're the ones pulling the strings at the moment. And I feel like it needs, as you were saying earlier, like more men on board, things
Right.
like that. So after the Leeds and Reading lineup was confirmed earlier this year when it was still supposed to happen, the 1975 then pledged that they weren't going to play any festivals that wouldn't have women on as well. And, he was criticised for that. Some people think it's very tokenistic to say you need at least 50% women. But then again, if these pledges get the attention of male bands, then I don't see the problem.
I think it's exceptionally powerful. I mean, just look at the Black Lives Matter movement. People saying they are allies has been a super powerful thing. And that is exactly what we need here. We need people that are willing to support, that understand. But like you quite clearly said earlier on, it's almost like if it's just women banging the drum, it's like, oh, you're just whinging, you're just a feminist, da, 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 da. And it's like, no, this is a problem. We have to put our hands in the air and accept that this is a problem. And let's look at ways to try and improve this. And why are the reasons that women, there's less uploads from women than there are men? And there are a number of reasons across the freelance sector, the music industry, from, job insecurity, maternity leave, things like, being a freelancer with limited financial backup for yourself. There's all these different things that are overarching, old school cliques of males and and predominantly white males as well in certain positions, and that's kind of endemic through the industry, I would say. And things will change, they will change, but at what pace? And if we want to see a more rapid change, then we have to invest, support, and keep campaigning. But it's it's a difficult thing because how do we bring people on as allies? And that's what we've got to do.
Absolutely. And I've definitely been asking the question since the pandemic. Everyone has had this opportunity to sort of step back from the music scene and the music industry because it's been on pause. And I feel like now is a good opportunity to kind of like assess the inequalities that lie within the music industry. But I don't know if things will change. I don't know if this is a good time to like make people more aware of the issues. It's difficult to know.
I mean, behind the scenes, obviously, people scheduling should be aware of these kind of things. We do produce a BBC Introducing show, and we're very much tied to what comes in every week on the uploader. But I will go out of my way to try and put every strong female artist track in, and they'll say, but don't play a track just because it's a female vocal. You've got to play the best stuff. So it's that balance of, replaying a few other female vocals to try and bump it up and support those artists that are really strong. But almost we need to get more grassroots into the musicians to support those and empower those artists, give them more skills. We also worked on a masterclass at West Yorkshire that I proposed the topic of and interviewed most of the artists for that, but it's all about becoming a producer. And obviously we're very aware that most of the producers we get on the uploader are men, and they're smashing it, which is brilliant, but we want to share that knowledge and we want to encourage more women in production as well. So despite our subject matter being making it as a producer, most of the people that you actually hear the voices of in that masterclass are women. So people like Kelly Lee Owens, people like Laura, people like Catherine Marks, who is not just working as a electronic music producer. She actually produces people's records. She's worked with some absolute huge names like Foles. So we've tried to bring the voices together to almost empower without spelling it out. But I mean, there was some really invaluable knowledge in there about how to get started, what kit you need, what's most important, and hopefully it will tell people that they don't need to be perfect. I've heard numerous people say the same to me, that they don't feel like they can release things unless they're sure it's perfect. And like, what is perfect in the world? You learn as you do. So just get cracking, just get started. What have you got to lose? Upload a tune. It might not get airplay, but you know what? The next one might. And it's just finding your voice almost, and your music will reflect the capabilities and technology that you've got to hand. And I think that can be a nice thing. We play a lot of bedroom recordings on BBC Intro and on Amazing Radio, and you know what, there's no bad thing about that. I think we're almost a little bit too hard on ourselves, and I want people to be kinder to themselves and be a bit more positive and open-minded about what they can achieve. And you never know, it might just work for you.
Is about people who don't have tracks that would be considered radio ready, and can they still be discovered? Because there's a lot of curating radio, I'm assuming, is kind of like talent scouting, and I feel like curation and everything. And I a lot of the girls that I've spoken to who are sort of starting out on the music scene feel like they're never confident enough to ask, like, will you like review this, like, can I have this? So that's what I want the platform to be, is just something very accessible and very like friendly and everything. And I feel like it's fantastic that you're saying, like, we send out all of we play this bedroom recorded stuff, and it's so encouraging as well. And I'm sure for many like young girls, it's just encouraging to hear it from another woman, because I feel like the gender thing can be quite an intimidating barrier, and it shouldn't be.
I mean, I am really lucky that working at West Yorkshire, it's me and Em, we are a force together. We both have great ears, and I know that. And, we will play, if a song is good, regardless of its recording, we will play it. And we try and play as much new music every week that's come in every week as we can. We're getting people to do mixes from home, because obviously we can't get people in session. We're getting people to record sessions at home. So people are learning new skills in this pandemic. They're, crowdsourcing material and learning to make videos. And, it's a really positive time to just experiment. And, you don't even have to put your name down. You can upload under a alias. We don't need to know much about you. It normally just comes up on the BBC Introducing uploader. Yeah, it does help if we know that you're female or male, because it helps us to monitor our 50-50. But on Amazing Radio, you don't need to give us hardly any information, but just let like at Amazing Radio, there's a wide range of different DJs that listen to the tunes, and we don't all have the same ears, so we'll all like different things, which is great, because then there's opportunities to get on the Amazing Radio chart or the Amazing Radio playlist. And those little things, this is where the industry is. They listen to these shows, they are listening to the tracks that get played or are doing well in the charts. And these are all small emerging artists that may not have a manager, that may not have a label, that may just be recording things themselves in their practice space. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how you get started, and that's how you get on the treadmill. It takes a number of years to get, signed to a label, get all your like ducks in a row. Just don't limit yourself by possibility, by worrying about everything being perfect. I think if you have a natural talent and sound, then that will shine through. I mean, if we don't play it, don't feel despondent. Just listen to what we're playing and the quality of what we're playing, and almost try and, that is valuable information that will guide and shape your next recording, because you will taking it in and be learning from it probably without even realizing. I wrote an article for the Musicians Union earlier this year about getting radio play in lockdown, and it's pinned at the top of my Twitter profile at Shell Zenner. But feel free to read that, and hopefully it will empower you a little bit about how to reach out to people the right way, and find the right spaces to, or people to pitch your music to.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that would be so useful for like people who are going to view this and like people who follow us. Well, thanks very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.